I began to pray to God that He would bless them to be musically inclined. One night or one morning that I woke up and I heard the voice of the Lord, and it was just as if a scroll had just fallen from heaven.
And so I'll close here tonight when I tell you that the Lord...
I found a young musician in Atlanta who's using technology and an app to pump up the preacher.
He made my favorite app in the world.
We've got the inventor, the creator, the originator of that app with us now.
How's the Whoop Triggerz app working out for you?
A lifesaver.
If you're a preacher, you got to get this.
His invention has revolutionized music ministry.
Whitfield has been playing in church bands since he was 5, and now he wants to give every pastor and preacher a chance to stir the congregation through music.
His birth certificate says Mr. Carlton Whitfield, but we know him as C-Dub, the inventor of Whoop Triggerz.
They were very young when they started playing the instruments. We had a big upright piano in our living room. And I remember when Carlton, he was probably a little over 12 months old, began to go over and hit on it.
Bling, bling.
So, and I told him to stop that, and his father said,
Let him alone, let him alone. And he bling, bling, bling.
Well, I have to say our dad is our most influential icon of like music because he played everything in church. You know, he would do praise and worship, and then he would go up and preach. And then after he got through preaching, he would go back to the organ. And so we saw him do things like this. Naturally, I picked up the drums and he picked up the organ, and we kind of like started.
They just grew up in the back room playing, and we let them play. Sometimes I'd be back there late at night. That's where it all began.
We grew up basically in our church, in our town. We were the only musicians, so it wasn't really any people to just look at and see how they played. We just kind of had to learn on our own. Other than my dad, like we said, he tolerated us until we could, make some notes. When the big church services came in, they bring another musician in, and I kind of just sit back on the seat, kind of watch him. Growing up, it was, y'all listen to gospel, we're gonna play gospel, we're gonna use your gift for the Lord, and that's what we did. Probably around, I was 11 or 12, and then I kind of got a little better, and I was able to play for the pastors, like anniversary and the family and friends day. And
all they played was their music, their gospel music that they made up.
I had to apologize to them because we did a lot of praise and worship.
My dad's music, he would get up at the podium, he'd be like, I got this new song. I don't even know all of it. Come on, sons, start playing.
I would just make up songs on the spot, and they would follow.
And I think that's where I got my production skills from, because I had to produce on the spot.
Everything I did, they just looked like they read my mind. And so I'm crazy about these two young fellas. People say I brag on them too much, but that's what I do. And I think more kids would be better kids if the parent give them more affirmation.
God had blessed them. They had such a great talent. I would hear them playing all the time. If it wasn't the drum, it was a keyboard. As the years went by, it just began to blossom.
Me and my brother had to perform at this musical one night. It was about 200 miles away from where we stay. And I'll never forget, at the end of the musical, my brother came to me, he was like, man, this pastor of this church wants you to play for him. And I'm like, I'm not playing for him, I play for my dad, I don't play for nobody else. And he was like, I think you really should just go check it out. I told him I'd think about it, and on the way home, I talked to my dad, and I said, Dad, you know, this pastor wants me to play here.
Got the word that this preacher want me to play for him.
Sometimes parents can hold their children back because of their benefit or their gain. But we have a father, very loving, that said, son, I don't want to hold you back.
I was like, Dad, for some reason I feel like I should do it, but I don't want to leave you.
I played before they started, but I'm not accustomed to playing for myself when I'm preaching.
I played for my dad since I was 5.
And I said, I get through it.
One morning, I'm just saying to myself, I'm tired of getting up, making breakfast, getting up early. And I heard the voice of God again say, they were not going to be with you long, so get up. It's like it's only yesterday that I could hear that voice. So I got up and got their breakfast. And because whatever way they were going, we did not want to hold them back, by no means. I knew something was up when they're looking kind of serious and they said, what y'all think about us moving to Atlanta? Oh my gosh. You done moved out. Now you want to move. I'm saying this in my mind. You want to move to Atlanta. That's so far away. But I knew it had to be the will of God, and I would never get in the way of the will of God. Whatever He has for them is for them.
My grandmother, you know, she would always say, Chad, I was born on this street in Hillsborough. I lived on this street in Hillsborough, and I'm going to die on the same street. And she did that, okay? And so when Mom said, y'all need to get out as fast as you can. Even though we were living in Dallas-Fort Worth area, but we would, you know, always come back home. But she was like, get out. You know, if you feel like this is what God is leading you to do, you need to go do it. And we just did it.
Well, I cried, and I told them to call me. Oh yeah, Mama, we're gonna call you. We're gonna call you every week. I heard that. We're gonna call you every day. We're gonna call. Yeah, that finally just, they did call, but it wasn't as often as they said.
We ended up moving to Atlanta.
At that time, this was like the #2 gospel market, and we were like, that's where we need to be.
Yeah.
When we got to the airport, that was the day. Now I got like 5 bags. Chad got like 4. And that was the day they started charging for bags at the airport. And guess what we had to do? Leave a bunch of bags there. I had to take a bunch of stuff out. We had to consolidate stuff because none of us had money. So we left a lot of stuff at the airport, and we just came. I'm a risk taker. We both are really. So
yeah,
I'd rather just try it and see what's gonna happen than to not do it and wonder what would happen.
I had $500, maybe $600.
Yeah, I ain't had it.
In my name.
Yeah. I felt like, you know, when we moved to Atlanta, we thought this was it. And we got here and realized, being from a country town, everybody's doing what we shoot better than what we were doing, you know, as far as in the music scene. And it was just kind of like, oh, well. Decided to try something else. Got into this multi-level marketing company, but I needed some money to get into it. So the only thing I had was my Yamaha XS6. I just got it before I moved to Atlanta to downsize from the keyboard I had, so I could move it here. And now here I am trying to sell it, you know, so I can get into this other business. It was like, I came here to do music, and now I'm quitting music.
I don't remember him expressing that to me. I always known him as he was not one that would just tell you everything. He had a way of trying to figure out what he needed to do.
I met Anthony when I first came to Atlanta.
I met Carlton around 2008.
Coming to a new town, especially Atlanta, I'm gonna pull back from everybody at first.
He told me he sold all his keyboards and different things, and I was like, bro, come on, man.
And I'm like, but I don't want to.
Then I came up with a band that I had at that time, and I was like, let me hit him up. So called him up.
Hey man, I got this band, you need to come play. I'm like,
yeah, I don't play R&B.
I don't play nothing but gospel music, man.
Come on, you should do this.
He literally saved me from quitting music, honestly. I'll never forget. He was the first person I had ever seen that had a real home studio in his house. And it was just so inspiring to me. I was like, he had, the monitors. And it was just like, you can have this in your house. You can do this.
Then we hooked up with other great musicians, Caesar and everybody else started delving into, and whatever it was, we all got together and literally just played music and had fun doing it. And so that formed a dope bond between me and my bro.
Finally, one day, he asked me to do this gig.
You should do music. Come on, let's do this R&B.
We played like all these Michael Jackson songs. Mind you, I'm used to playing in church, so I've never done this before, and I'm literally like hoping God don't strike me down. We did the set, we finished, and after that, like the craziest thing happened. Like a guy came up to me, and the first thing he said was, "What church do you go to?" The last time I went to church, I walked out while the preacher was preaching with my middle finger up at him. But the way you play tonight was anointed, and it makes me want to get back into church. That let me know, like, I do have a purpose in the music industry, and that got me back in, that one gig alone.
We met this guy named Ben Atkins, who was a bass player we met at Mars Music. And he was a great bass player, and he was asked, "Do you guys record?" And I was like, "No." He said, "Well, let me show you some things." And so he invited us out, and he showed us this program called Sonar. And with Sonar, we started recording. And that was like a big door to being able to record, because we always come up with ideas, and Dad just making up stuff on the spot. So we just started recording things. And so with this being with computer-based recording, we started recording songs.
Recording on a computer was totally different from doing it on a keyboard. You mess up on a keyboard, you gotta try to find a measure, figure out where you messed up, or just end up just recording the whole thing over. But now it's just like, you mean to tell me we don't have to do it again? Like just one time?
That turned into recording songs for other people. And then that turned to, hey, let's do an album.
Computerized recording, it just changed the world.
Yeah.
I just know that when you do what God has for you to do, He makes a way for you. Well, I want to tell you something. There's a thing that you must understand. There is nothing like the church.
I don't know, ever since the day I left my dad's church, I've always felt a little guilt, right? Because I knew my dad loved music, but every church I went to, the music was just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. He still didn't have anybody. There were no musicians in the city, honestly. There were only two, and I taught those two, and they went on to play other places.
One of my questions, as I mentioned earlier, what am I going to do, when I get ready to preach? And of course, I didn't know that really that Carlton was thinking of me in that respect until he told me about it.
And my dad was always asking me, "Son, can you send me something for church? Can you send me a track, or can you send me this?" And I would send him stuff, but then he was like, "Son, what am I gonna do for preaching? Like, I don't have anything to." And so, I don't know, one day I think I was driving in my truck or something, and I hit a bump, I don't know. But something just hit me like, "You remember that idea you had when you was 17? Because back then the technology really wasn't there other than on a keyboard, but now we got all this software. And so I started thinking, like, how can I create something for my dad where he can preach and actually, like, anybody can play behind him. I don't have to be there, but I'm there. And so that's when I got to work. I was like, I got to figure this out. We got the loops going, he got tracks, but he don't have nothing when he preach. We finna figure out something. I just made myself a developer. Like, I didn't know what I was doing. I just got on main stage. That was the first software I tried to, and it was working cool. And then I was gonna show my friend Anthony. I was like, "Y'all, I got y'all opinion on this," and I let him hear it.
And he was like, "Yeah, man, I want to try something out. This is what I wanted to do." It was basically dealing with Hoop.
And he was like, "It sounds great." He was like, "What software are you using?" I was like, "Mainstage." But I want to get it, Mainstage is just for Mac. I need it on PC and Mac.
But Vernon brought up the bright idea for Carlton to use Contact.
And for those of you who don't know, Contact is like a virtual instrument where you can create your own sounds, and it's all kind of stuff you can do, but it's on both platforms. And I was like, you know what? That really would work. So that's where the first version of Whoop Triggerz came from, was from him saying that I just literally just scratched everything I was doing. I was almost done. I just threw it in the trash and I'm starting all over. Let me learn how to develop something in contact. And I did that. And when I was trying to figure out a name for this, we were like Preach Triggers or, you know, Holla Trigger. I don't know what it was. And for some reason, Hoop was just it. When I said Whoop Triggerz, I was like, it's a rap. People gonna think it's about basketball, but it's not.
Because I didn't know what a hoop thing was, you know, until I heard it, you know. And I said, it sounded like it's something Daddy could use or somebody else could use.
And born the first version of Whoop Triggerz 2015. What's up, my name is C-Dub, and I'm gonna get straight to it, give you 3 points, and raise up out of here.
The first thing I remember about Whoop Triggerz, I was asked to come over and do a demo for this new product. I wasn't quite sure of what it was, but it was explained to me that it was ultimately for, I guess, churches that didn't have full bands or the musicians that they may have wanted to have.
Jasmine was literally the very, very first person to help me demo Whoop Triggerz. I set it up in my house, and this was back when the Whoop Triggerz worked on a keyboard, and I used her as a person who has never played behind a preacher to show people that even if you never have, that you still can with this software.
All I had to do was press one individual note on the keyboard at a time, and what would come out would be these big chords as if there was this huge band there. And it was the most amazing thing I think I had seen.
Lord, 7 times a day. So when we praise the Lord, let it not just be for our stuff, but even when we are in our stuff.
So my reaction when I first sat down with C-Dub, I was in his house, he said, Roy, I need to show you something I've come up with.
I asked him to sing I Won't Complain. This was my demo for it. And so I said, sing I Won't Complain. He started singing, and I pressed one note on the keyboard and started playing the keyboard.
I've had some good days. He said, keep going, sing freely. Go ahead. I've had some hills to climb. 6.
And he was like, what? And I said, keep going.
I've had some weary days too. 5 and some sleepless nights. 1, 3. When I look around, and he's playing this just one note, just triggered to everything I'm doing.
Kept going, I pressed another one, and it went to the next chord change. And he was like,
I said, stop. I said, I'm gonna have to be your security from now on. Forget us being boys. I gotta run your security detail. I'm gonna have to be your bodyguard. Because if this technology gets out to the world, they're coming after you.
When I first decided I was just gonna do design myself, I got on this little app called Sketch, I think, or something graphic, and I just put some circles, some colors, and I was good, And I showed it to Tiff, and she was like, "What is this? This is going where?" She was like, "No, let me fix this for you." And she redid the whole thing and made it beautiful, and that's what everybody knows today, and is amazing, and it worked. But I'm trying to tell you, I was gonna put it out.
It was bad.
I never forget when I first released it. The first day, Warren Brown went live on his Facebook page showing people this app.
What's up, everybody? Listen, y'all, I want to thank y'all for joining this amazing live stream by none other than the C-Dub brand, y'all. Listen, do me a favor right now. I need everybody right now that's watching this video. Yes, that means you. I need you to share this video with everybody, y'all.
That next day, I think we got about 1,000 downloads instantly. And it actually broke the server. We just wasn't ready for it. And I know, in the app world, 1,000 downloads is nothing, right? People get 1 million in one day. But for an app that plays behind a preacher in the gospel music industry, this was big.
I felt excited about it because it was a relief to me. And even now, there are times that I don't do tutorials as good as he does, but I will do some tutorials from a pastor's or a preacher's perspective, because at my age, most people that preachers that old, they don't want nobody to think that see them hit a button to preach behind. When they always hit a table anyway when they're preaching. But so I have to go and demonstrate it, and there are preachers that have start using it. As a result, they know that, hey, here's a 72-year-old man, and he's using it. In fact, I tell them to get your Bluetooth. You don't even have to hook it up to a wire. Just walk around and put it in your hand, and they don't even know you have here. You see right here, I'm not hooked up to anything.
Long before he knew it was going to really have a need, just from him helping his father. I think that part of the story is so amazing. He wanted to make sure his father was good. And in doing that, he's now created something that is worldwide, where churches didn't have to miss a beat.
Musicians are just playing by themselves and want to sound more full and want to sound like a full band by themselves, but they don't have a budget to really hire a lot of people and all that kind of stuff.
Because of their personality and the aid of Whoop Triggerz, now people know who they are. It literally helps to enhance ministry, and it helps them in the marketplace with their branding to be able to establish who they are.
My first reaction was, I got mad. And the reason why I got mad, I said, Lord, all those years of preaching where musicians were messing me up, why didn't I have this years ago?
I first found out about the Whoop app from my son, Justin. He had been in a competition with C-Dub, and I said, a Whoop app? What is a Whoop app?
My initial react to the app, when I was asked about coming to do a promo by C-Dub with the app, I was like, what is getting ready to happen? And then after I heard it, I was very, very impressed because of what the Lord had done through his mind in regards to the app.
He just literally changed the world of preaching and gave people a chance that are serious about ministry, because so many preachers, you're preaching the word of God, but musicians like myself, you know, I play, but I only play in C and G. So if you don't hit C or G, forget about it.
And so he did it for me. I said, that's pretty good. I said, can it modulate? Can it change keys? He said, absolutely. He went there with me. I said, At the time, I was we had just started a church in Birmingham, and our musicians were having to leave early because we were new in town. And so musicians were great musicians, but you lose that when they leave out when it's time for me to get up, because they had to play for another service because we had an earlier service. So what do I do? And the Whoop Up came at that time. It was almost like a godsend.
I remember when I started seeing the brand start to take off a little bit, I just knew at one point I cannot do this by myself. And I got trust issues when it comes to business, right? I had to find somebody. I remember asking him a while back, you know, you want to do some work? And he was like, okay. One day I came to him and I was like, Chad, I need you to quit your job. And that was the best business decision I've ever made, was bringing him on. We like carbon copies, you know what I'm saying? It's like, we think alike, we act alike. We have our differences, and of course, we fight on some stuff, but at the end of the day, we both have an understanding of what we need to do, and we get it done. We get it done. So I was in the office one day, coming down the elevator, and there was this lady from the CBS News trying to get people to interview for her segment on being vegan. And nobody would give her the time of day. Everybody was coming off the elevator. She was asking people, hey, can I interview you? You know, oh no, we're headed to lunch, you know. And finally, I just stopped her. I said, ma'am, I said, what do you need? I said, whatever you need, whatever interview you need, I got you. Just let's do it right now. And she was like, oh, thank you so much. And so she started interviewing me, and I gave her what she needed in, like, 30 seconds to a minute. And I just said, oh, by the way, I have this app that I just came out with. If you ever looking for a new story. And she was like, all right, well, here's my card. And so when I got back to my office, I just emailed her. And she immediately emailed me back and said, you know what? I don't know you. I don't even know what app you're talking about. But because you took the time today to give me the story that I needed, I'm going to put you on CBS News. And she did exactly that. The next day, she got her producer to come out to my office with cameras, and they shot a segment on Whoop Triggerz.
Whether you go to church on Wednesday night or Sunday morning, besides the message, what stays with you is the music. I found a young musician in Atlanta who's using technology and an app to pump up the preacher.
I made it as easy as possible. I mean, it's a big tap button. All you do is tap it.
Atlantan Carlton Whitfield is the man behind the app called Whoop Triggerz. He demonstrates it on YouTube.
Somebody's preaching. All I gotta do is tap.
He created it to fill the void in small churches and to liven up any service.
I mean, at one point, Whoop Triggerz was trending on Facebook. The majority of the comments were negative. So I remember like getting these emails and especially comments on Facebook posts and Instagram posts. It was like, you know, this dude is a sorcerer, you know, or this is of the devil. You shouldn't try to put the anointing inside of an app. I mean, just crazy stuff. You know, taking all the musicians' jobs. You don't care about us. You know, just anything you can think of negative, they were on it.
I think people will always talk about what they fear. And people will always talk about what they can't control and what they don't make money off of.
The backlash that I was getting was, I mean, I had a feeling people were gonna talk about it, but I didn't know it was gonna be like that. Like they really, really, really let me have it. But I have a team of supporters that had my back. At the same time, it still hurts because you put so much work into something. It took like 2 years to build this app, and then I was already scared to release it, and then when I did release it, exactly what I thought would happen happened.
Never, ever be intimidated by this app. And the reason why I say this, you want musicians everything that can enhance your music ministry.
It was horrible to see fellow musicians that you look up to. Sometimes, some of them, not all of them.
I mean, why would I want to create a product to take away a job from a musician? No, it was all to help those that do not have, because I'm from that place. A lot of musicians don't come from that place, but I do, and I know what's there, and I know the need.
And so it's amazing. One thing that Carlton showed me was his integrity and his character on social media. Because let me tell you something, the ministry of Clapback would have been like ruthless and snatching people's souls. Like, that's why you have a church in a hotel, why you trying to talk about my app and, you know, different things of that nature. But he always remained very neutral.
But I think the main thing that was bad is that it came from people I respected. There were some people that didn't know it was me that did the app. So when they saw it, you know, everybody wants to be the first person to say something about something, you know, and they were just letting me have it. And I was like, I can't believe this person is actually saying this.
First musicians I heard, they said, man, don't nobody need that. Why would you need that app if you got an organist? I'm like, that makes sense. And why would a pastor get that anyways? Is he trying to replace me?
Now it challenges you to actually be a musician. Know your keys, you know what's going on.
I think the first thing people go to is, this is gonna take a musician's place, or, you know, it's gonna get musicians fired.
Well, if he is, step up. Like, level up. Let this help you. Like, you shouldn't be so complacent that you think an app is gonna take your job.
People don't understand that, like I said, we're from a small town. I'll never forget, we went back to my town, I asked all the pastors, like, who has a musician within a 15-mile radius of this city? And all of them were like, nobody. So these churches really do exist. Every church is not what you see on social media.
It's a thing that we have to understand. Just because God doesn't show the other person, that doesn't mean that he didn't show you whatever it is that he wants you to do.
I know people think that this is something negative, but it's actually something very positive for the body of Christ. In time, everybody's gonna see this is needed.
With COVID-19, it forced people to have to stream live and broadcast stuff on Facebook with no audience.
The church, gospel, Christian, kingdom, however you want to say it, is always at least 20 years behind everything else. And so this is why you have it where people were risking their lives to still do quartet programs, because they didn't have the necessities that they needed to be able to do a virtual concert. This is why people were risking their lives to still have in-person service, because they didn't even know how to patch in to a Zoom or to Facebook Live.
The prophetic move in the spirit realm of Whoop Triggerz is what was able to give us what we needed, the tools we needed to make it through a pandemic.
Especially during the pandemic, I've been consulting with a lot of smaller churches, some of which was just starting at the brink of the pandemic or things of that nature. And so I let them know with this app, especially those who are musically inclined, you can absolutely enhance your service. If all you got is your iPhone and Whoop Triggerz, you can rock it out as if you got a full staff.
With this app, it's future-proof. So even if it happened again, you're already set. You already have what you're gonna do. You already know what you're gonna do. You have a plan.
So now this app that you were scared of actually makes people say, hey, you sound great. So I see both sides. Like, you shouldn't be mad that the app is here. I get it. The app does really great things. That's phenomenal. You shouldn't be mad. You should say, I'm gonna use this to enhance what I'm already doing.
People later on had to look around and said, wait a minute, who's doing that? Because the musicians are gone.
Your music was on point. What was going on? They don't even realize that it's somebody with a mic up to an iPad that's literally clicking the button and following along. And so I think that type of creativity is who we are anyway, right? And it's amazing that a Black man created the technology that the Black church is now benefiting from.
I mean, at first they tried to crucify it, but now since the day of pandemic, everybody has to embrace it because you can even use Whoop Triggerz at your house when it ain't nobody but you, your Bible, and the app.
Old School Praise started during the pandemic, actually in this form, using the app in the way I use it. We just came into the pandemic and I was just sitting at home thinking, what is gonna happen? God, what do you want us to do? And God said, tell my people to praise me. And I said, nobody feels like praising you. That's the way I talk to God. And he told me to go upstairs and get my Bluetooth speaker and my iPad, and I just started singing the songs with the app. I didn't write them down. I just started singing them as they came to me. I didn't plan on starting this and doing it as a ministry. This came from a place of grief when my grandfather died. And that's how really God healed me.
1, 2, 3, 4, got my shield, got my sword. 1, 2, 3, 4, got my shield, got my sword. Soldier.
You know, time settles a lot of things. And there was no use trying to fight that fight. All you do is just let time take care of it. And here we are these months and maybe a few years later, and we've all discovered that none of that was true. All this helps you do is expand. And I don't think anybody lost their job because of this. And if that's what they were looking for, then perhaps they were already slowing down. This doesn't stop you, it encourages you. And so I haven't heard of one pastor, one musician who said, man, I can't find a job because everybody's using Whoop Triggerz. That's not the case at all. And I think real good musicians may know that they can use this as a tool, even in their toolbox, to help them go further than where they are right now.
Whoop Triggerz and that technology is serving a group of churches. Let's just say there's a segment of churches that cannot afford a musician. There's a segment of churches that don't have the budget, these new upstarts, or these churches that have been around, they only have, 50 members. Let's just be honest. Most musicians are not running down the doors of their churches to go work there.
So when we still have to produce, people come to the church and they're looking for the experience of a church, but yet we don't pay our musicians to be here around the clock. So the app has evolved into a tool, a resource, like a toolkit. I promise you, I don't go to any church that I consult with without this app. I literally pull it out every single time I'm talking. I say, do you have this app? Why do I need this app? This is everything you need if you don't have a band, if you don't have music, this is this app.
So to me, Whoop Triggerz was like we were asking for it and didn't even know it. And that's when you know you have a great technology, because a great technology always answers a question that we didn't know we needed to ask.
How did you come up with the idea, or how did you discover that there was a need for worship music?
Well, I'm a musician myself. I grew up in a small town. I'm talking very small. 2 exits, stoplight, you out. And when it came time for me to leave, with it being a small town, there are no musicians there. And he was like, well, son, what do I do while I'm preaching? I don't have anything, while I'm preaching, nothing to back me up, nobody to play behind me. That's when I knew there was a need. I wanted to help him out because that's my dad,
Pastor, come on down here. Let's do a sermon to see how this app works.
Good.
Well, is there anybody here that want to have a little church?
We're having church up in here.
Put your hands together.
Put your hands.
Come on, put your hands together.
Your hands.
Woo. I know.
Where am I?
Somebody getting happy right now.
I'm talking about me. Oh, come on. Work it out.
All I could do was think back to the 6 months I let this app sit in the App Store, scared about what people were gonna say, about the negative comments, and I just think about the fact, what if I had not released it? Like, what if I had listened to them? And even after it was released, there were times I wanted to take it down. I wanted to just go on the App Store and say, unpublished. But then I think about just hearing that story, it's like, what if I had just caved in? What if I had given up? What if I had just said, you know what, this ain't it? How many other people have a story similar that we just don't know?
The work that you have done is a proven fact that if you follow God's directions, you'll never go wrong.
You know, there's a saying that my dad has always instilled in me and my brother, and it sticks in my head even to this day. He would always say that when you take care of God's people, God will take care of you. And when I look over the success that I've had with this app, and I see how many churches that benefit from it, I've had bishops calling me, this app blessed them in their ministry. And you know, I've been able to travel the world and showcase this app and show people and just really help people. And when it all boils down to it, my first and foremost goal was not to make money. My main goal was to help my dad. And if it had not been for this man, this app would not exist. And Dad, I dedicate this documentary, this product, the Whoop Triggerz experience, to you.
And tell me where you can do that at. Whoop Triggerz Plus, y'all.